Director of Emergency Services. I've got several things this morning. The first is a change order with the general contractor for the new building in the amount of $71,281. Everything on this change order were things that were discovered along the way that just needed to be corrected in order to be done correctly, with the exception of the flag poles. This incorporates flag poles, which we knew we were going to put in, but we didn't know exactly what the height was going to be or what they were going to be, so they were left out of the original bid with the understanding we were going to come back later on and correct that through a change order.
And the heights have to do with the approach to the helipad.
Yep. Yeah, they have to be, they're 20-foot flag poles to keep it below the approach.
It seemed like a really high cost, and I was wondering, does that include wiring that you have to run, or?
Yes, and the installation and the foundation.
That would make sense.
The concrete sleeves.
It's not just the poles.
Yep, and these ones have lights up top that shine down.
I was reading that, and I thought, it's got to be the electrical hookup.
The poles themselves really aren't that expensive. It's everything that goes on to them.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve. Was it $71,281?
That's correct.
Dollars in changes there?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve that change order list. Any questions regarding the motion? Not all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so moved.
Okay, the next thing I have is a request to allocate $74,921 of ARPA funding to go towards a countywide law enforcement records management system. This is a project that we had attempted a couple of years ago with unanimous support from the board at that time. We went for a grant through the PCCD. We were unsuccessful with that grant. However, Lebanon City Police Department just obtained a $200,000 grant and approached us to see if we were willing to basically buy this up to that original quote and then provide the benefit to all county law enforcement, countywide. So I think it's a great thing. It's going to be entirely covered for capital costs by grant money, either ARPA or the Lebanon City grant. And there's two actual actions we have to do here.
Would you mind just, I know this is about the third time this has come up in this meeting over the last couple of years, but could you recap what this, how this functions, what this accomplishes for the county police forces?
Yeah, right now every police department has their own records management system where they store every call for service. It's completely independent of each other. It's independent of our computer dispatch system, so they're islands. This brings all that under one house. And while $250,000 is a lot of money, that's actually a fairly low cost for a system like this. That's because this is going with the same vendor that we use for our CAD. We already own the majority of the licensing that's necessary. So this allows all those records to be integrated with our CAD system. It allows every police department to have visibility into any sort of interactions countywide. It's going to reduce the workload on them because being integrated with our CAD, they have the ability to click a button and all of their times, all of the relevant information from the call that the dispatcher put in gets pulled right over. The report is half done at that point. It's a much smoother workflow for them.
So as a practical example, I'm going back on memory to what you discussed before. If a police department, say in North Lebanon Township, has a traffic stop and it may or may not result in citation or anything, then the person commits an infraction in South Lebanon Township 10 minutes later, there would be no knowledge of that prior interaction, I mean, unless maybe radio traffic.
Right.
But if someone is then, there's another interaction with an officer, that officer would see that even 10 minutes earlier there was some kind of
Correct.
Which might, combined mean more than those two incidents separately.
Yes, the system allows for visibility between all the different participating departments. They can have that level of integration from an investigative standpoint. That's extremely beneficial as well. You can put a name in the system and find out every department that's had contact with that individual rather than calling, basically the old-fashioned way, calling around and seeing who has them in their systems and who doesn't. If you have an interaction with a law enforcement officer that results in some sort of verbal warning, but the reports are still documents that you also have, to your example, you know, some record of that that would carry over to anybody else that would have an interaction with that same person.
Anything else?
Just the fact that there's two separate requests here. The first is to allocate the ARPA funding to it. The second request is to amend our Tyler contract with that quote that was attached.
Take the ARPA request first.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve that ARPA request.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we allocate roughly $75,000 of ARPA money to combine with the city grant. Any questions regarding the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Same sign, so moved.
I'll make a motion to amend the contract to reflect the changes.
Second.
Does that cover it, Bob?
That's it.
Any questions regarding the motion? If not all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, so moved.
The next thing is to go back and officially announce the burn ban resolution that we adopted earlier last week. Yes.
Action to ratify it.
Ratified, I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't know, other than just bringing it to a public meeting and getting a public vote on it, I don't know if there's anything else that has to happen at this point.
Motion approved.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we ratify the action of the burn ban. Any questions regarding the motion? It's been pretty well publicized.
And I'd just like to,
Based on the recent rain we've had and maybe more,
Yep.
when or how would we revisit this? If it be-
and that was exactly what I was gonna say, was, you know, we've had some rain this week for the first time in the summer. And the weather forecast shows small amounts of rain over the next 2 weeks. And if that holds true, we'll go back and re-poll the fire chiefs if the fire weather map looks like it's the right time to do it. And if the vote turns to rescind it prior to the expiration date, I'll bring a recommendation back to the board to do so.
Yeah, at this point, it's set to run through July 4th, or July 8th.
Important to note, Bob, you mentioned to me when we authorized it initially that you had already polled the fire chiefs.
Yes.
And your response from them was?
An overwhelming majority were in favor of it. I believe we had one that voted no, but I have to go back and double check that.
I remember 95%.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all in favor of ratifying the resolution?
Aye.
Aye. Nay? So moved.
And the final request is from Union Township Board of Supervisors for an exemption to the burn ban for this Saturday, the 17th. There is a professional fireworks display that is put on by Sky Shooter Displays. And they are requesting, with the support of the fire chief in the area, an exemption to allow that display to take place. My recommendation is that you approve the exception.
And the fire chief did forward a letter
Yep, he attached a letter of
of
support.
support for the exemption of the circumstances.
And this is set off at Twin Grove Park, is that right?
Correct. I didn't realize they had fireworks there. Apparently it's an annual thing.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second the motion. I just want to make sure. I know that, is the fire in Schuylkill County out?
I don't know.
It was half the mountain burn from a windmill. Is it, can you confirm that that's out?
I will do my best, yeah. I can tell you that they will have fire apparatus on scene during this event to make sure that nothing actually transpires.
I mean, it's right at the county line,
Yep.
basically, so I'd just like to make sure we're not going to add.
Yep, I'll check into that and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
So does the burn ban prohibit fireworks? Okay,
Yes.
I wasn't sure.
Yep.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded, and all the, responsible people have said that they are supporting this waiver. Any
I was going to say, and I had to ask, I don't know if that could be, if Commissioner Kuhn would accept an amendment to verify that the mountain in Schuylkill County is no longer burning.
It just on a quick look here, that was on June 3rd near Mahanoy City. And it looks like it was just, I don't have any indication that it's still inactive. incident. That was,
I just heard lots of
you know, that was
talk
2 weeks
about
ago.
how it burned half a mountain or something. And I didn't know if it was still smoldering or,
I just don't know. I have to look into it.
okay.
So for this particular motion, do we need to modify it to include the fire in Schuylkill County? She's asking you that.
What was the amendment? the
To
motion?
amend the motion to verify that the fire in Schuylkill County is out, so we don't add to the,
Make a motion that it's contingent on you verifying that fire is under control and we're not adding to the Schuylkill County's burden. With that confirmation, approve this exemption. That make sense?
I think it's beyond the scope of what they're asking, that we get some verification that we're going to have any bearing on what's going on in Schuylkill County. It sounds complicated to me and unnecessarily so, but I won't. Bob, do you have a comment on that?
My recommendation would be to do this without that amendment. However, I'll still look into it and due diligence and make sure that we're not adding to any issues. I do think that their request should stand independent of that, though.
and what happens if it is going? I mean, I'm thinking it's out, but what would you do if it is? And we passed it to go through? Nothing?
I don't understand the question.
Without the amendment, what would you do if you found out the mountain was still on fire?
It's not our fire. I'm not sure that we have any say in that. This is a Lebanon County request for Lebanon County municipality. I recognize that, if there's a large fire in Schuylkill County, that they might need assistance from us, but I don't know how that would change this specific request.
And my change or clarification was that we approve this exemption, but allow Bob the leeway to go and confirm that they don't need our assistance at this point, and that's not going to be an issue.
I think it was out.
Then you would have to come back and let us know.
I think it was out the next day. According to what I'm seeing here, it was limited to a very remote area, and there's no follow-up story to it other than beyond June 4th. So it was on June 3rd, and there are stories, and nothing beyond June 4th.
I was getting this directly from the foresters who were out at the Bell Grove Fire Company, and that is where the information came from that I was presenting.
Was that weekend?
It was, I think it was this past weekend, maybe it was 2 weekends ago. They all
Yeah,
run together.
The fire was on Saturday, June 4th, or June 3rd.
Okay.
But it looks like it was out on June 4th.
All I wanted was a simple confirmation. I didn't think that was a big deal, and Commissioner Kuhn has agreed to have them look into it because it doesn't sound like it's going to be a problem, so I don't see what's the problem with the amendment to make sure. That's all.
We have a motion in a second. It's a little convoluted for me, but all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll go along with it because I want it to get through. I don't want to stand, as a split vote on it, but, so I'll be an aye for it.
Okay. I will
I'll oppose.
reach out and confirm.
So moved. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.